Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Canal Days. As always, I'm your host Carrie, along with my co-host, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. Our Canal Days series delves into the vast collection of historical sites throughout Massachusetts, with Robert's expertise of the local history as our personal guide. Each episode we uncover history throughout local communities with historic houses, meaningful monuments, preeminent pivotal pioneers, and remarkable remaining remnants, all while uncovering their seminal significance. Today's episode of Canal Days will be traversing the Second Congregation Church of Chicopee Falls. And so can you describe where the church is located within Chicopee?
Well, in fact, I can go right up to it and I can see it, but it's gone. So I'll describe its location. We're on Church Street in Chicopee, Massachusetts, across from the fire station over there. And it's well known where the church used to be. You have to go find it. Well, why do you call it Church Street? Because the Congregation Church of Chicopee Falls was located on it. Other churches were very close to it, including the United Methodist Church, the Baptist Church, in a couple places. And at the very far end of it, on Belcher Street in fact, was the St. Joachim, then St. George Church. But old maps tell us where this church used to be. It used to be at the very end of Court Street, and Court Street is right there. There's the court. This is Church Street. So the church used to be right here, right in this gap between these apartments here. All right. And so the church was taken down so that they can put new apartments up. But I have a picture of the church, an old-time picture on my webpage, so you can still see what it looked like. And in that picture, they'll show you in the background the Baptist Church, and we can see the United Baptist Church in the background. That was the church for Rufus Bellamy and his son Edward Bellamy. So we know what a church was. Well, what about its history? Well, it started off because they wanted to serve the congregational members of the Chicopee Falls area. The Chicopee Falls Canal, called the Springfield Canal, had been built right off of Front Street. They needed to attract members of the church since they didn't want them to have to walk all the way down into the Willimantic part of the city.
Disclose the history of the church.
Okay, the First Congregational Church of Chicopee Falls was probably started as a group of people in 1822. And that was probably because in 1822, the canal diggers had come to Chicopee to make the Springfield Canal in the Chicopee Falls section. And they would succeed and it would be ready by the next year, 1823. But there was a lot of congregations surrounding. They had come from all over New England, New York to make this old-time canal. And they got the mills ready too, and then some might have stayed as workers, but it attracted a lot of workers from all over New England. It didn't attract too many immigrants yet. Right now, this is the second of the congregational churches within Chicopee. The first one happens to be in the far southern part of Willimantic, Chicopee Street. Now, it was only a group of people, and they probably met in homes. Probably the minister homes or other people's homes. And so they didn't have a real physical church yet. But the physical church was finally started in 1830 and finished and ready for 1831. And it was at that corner I just showed you up there. Right? And it would be known by various names: the First Congregational Church of Chicopee Falls, the Second Congregational Church of Chicopee, or the Chicopee Falls Congregational Church, which probably was a latter name. And I do have a picture of it, so I'm going to be able to tell you that, and tell you the architectural style and what's become of this whole place. But wonderfully enough, there's a book written about the church, but it's a very technical book. It's a manual about the Second Congregational Church of Chicopee Falls, and describes all the parishioners, congregational members, and the ministers, the sextons, so forth and so on. So it's available on the internet, and I have it linked on their webpage.
And we will be right back after a few words. Are you fascinated by local history and eager to investigate the obscure treasures off the beaten path throughout the state of Massachusetts? Or maybe just seeking an unforgettable cultural activity for family and friends to enjoy? Look no further than Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, founded by Robert Comeau. With over a decade of experience, Robert offers captivating tours and presentations of historic sites and landmarks throughout the state. Whether you're interested in canals, cemeteries, charming churches, or more, Robert's tours provide a unique and enriching experience for all. And that's not it. You can also schedule private tours tailored to your interests, ensuring a personalized adventure and unforgettable memories. Perfect for families or groups of all sizes, making for exciting hands-on learning experience that brings history to life. Simply visit holyokecanaltour.org or email bobcat4214B@yahoo.com to book your private tour today. But wait, there's more. Don't miss out on Robert's podcast and video series, Canal Days, where you can dive even deeper into the vital history of the Connecticut River Valley. Plus, for those who may not be local or would rather enjoy on the go, or from the comfort of their home, Canal Days brings the adventure right to your screen. So don't miss out. Uncover the pivotal past with Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke to make your own history with memories that will last a lifetime. Remember to log to holyokecanaltour.org for more information and secure your personalized experience today. Welcome back to our Canal Days episode of the Second Congregational Church of Chicopee Falls. And can you illustrate the architectural style of this church for us?
Yes, I believe it's in the federal style, which was all arranged during the 1820s and 30s in the United States. And you can see it's a very formal style to it, and that's wonderful. They have only one picture I found, but if I find more, I'll post them to give you what the look is. It did have a bit of a steeple to it with a raised cupola on the top of it. And you can see in the distance in that photo that there's the United Baptist Church in the very background. And that is still viewable because it still exists.
And so can you analyze what has become of this church today?
Well, it was probably taken down during urban renewal, which hit Chicopee very late. Most communities hit late 60s, and Chicopee probably hit late 70s, and they probably put up those apartments in their very early 1980s. And so it's gone, but its importance during all those years was extremely large. So it existed for about 150 years. And it existed around a lot of other churches. So this Church Street was a religious center of Chicopee Falls. There's so many churches nearby. And for that reason alone, it's probably very interesting to read as much as you can about this church, because it probably was the most important church. Most of the people in this area very early on were probably of the Congregational denomination.
And thanks for joining and listening to Canal Days and our episode on the Second Congregational Church of Chicopee Falls, and joining us on our journey through the rich history of the Connecticut River Valley. We hope you enjoyed uncovering some of the hidden and overlooked marvels and their fascinating stories that shaped our past and the state of Massachusetts. A special thanks to Robert Comeau, founder of the Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, for sharing his passion and expertise with us. And remember, you can find more information about Robert's tours, book private tours, and explore the Canal Days video and podcast series at holyokecanaltour.org. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, and share. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Don't forget to keep exploring and discovering the history that is hidden in plain sight all around us. Thanks for listening, and tune in to our next episode of Canal Days at holyokecanaltour.org. Until next time.